Welcome everybody to another episode of the Monday Night Tours. We are your guides on this magical journey through the Monday Night Wars. I am Josh Kaiser, and I am joined today by Kyle Hoagland.
Hey, don't sound like you're so disappointed. This is what the people want to see. It's what the people come to expect. They want legitimacy, and they want facts. And they want it to come out of my mouth. So, you're welcome. You're welcome, audience.
You ready, Kyle? We're talking the October 23rd, 1995 editions of Raw and Nitro this week. Of course, it's going to be the go-home show for Halloween Havoc and the, whatever you call the follow-up show to In Your House 4. So we've got a lot going on. So,
and if anything, we'll see if we find out if the trend of the show is actually lower in the ratings after the pay-per-view. Yeah, so far that's what seems what's been happening.
It seems to be the trend, and we'll get there at the end of the show. But in the meantime, you got to stick through the first 60 minutes as we break down both shows, and we'll get right into it. Nitro, Kyle, live from Huntsville, Alabama, and they actually told us where they're at.
They name dropped it. Yeah, I mean, I think here's the thing about that is that. It's actually a place that they can actually say has something, because obviously that's where NASA is, I believe.
Yeah. There's some because they do mention NASA, so I guess it's worthwhile enough there. And of course, being a Southern promotion, it's a Southern city that's well known, I suppose. So they do mention it. Now you're not going to see the skyline, or anything to that effect, right? But they do mention it, so that's more than we can say for some of these other shows we've seen. And Mongo lets us know that he wants to see some whomping and some stomping, Kyle. So I think we've got a good show on our hands. And unlike the normal Nitros, this one starts out not at the broadcast table. We're getting right into a match. Macho Man's being introduced, and they're hitting right into it. And we've got Macho Man versus Kurosawa. And apparently Kurosawa's gimmick is the man who broke Road Warrior Hawk's arm, which at first I thought was a shoot, and they just started to roll with it. It's actually a story they wrote in here. I found out later. So I guess that's his gimmick now, is he broke Road Warrior Hawk's arm.
But how long ago was that? Because I thought Hawk then had a match like not even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Hawk's back. It was August 6th. At Bash at the Beach or something like that he broke it. So you're talking 2 months ago, Hawk's arm was broken, and now he's magically back in wrestling. So apparently he doesn't break it that bad.
He's got some Wolverine, healing factor apparently.
That's right. So what'd you think, Kyle, about this Macho Man Kurosawa match to open up Nitro?
I mean, There were some things I think that after I started kind of reading it, you and I are going to have some differing opinions on this match, but let's just get right into it. So you would think that after, first of all, they talk about how Kurosawa is like the man who broke Hawk's arm, and then they also said, and a little interesting little nugget of knowledge, Randy Savage has an injured arm. And which I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I'm pretty sure they just wrapped his arm in the back and said, "Sell it." And
apparently, hey, Kurosawa's an arm guy, so just work with us here.
Right. And speaking of which, so Kurosawa obviously is going to work the arm if you're going to see it all bandaged up. No, just kidding. He actually just does a bunch of judo chops and kicks him in the back of the leg. It actually takes a while in the match before he even does anything with the arm, which I thought would be more of the focus on this. Another thing that I also noticed I had a note was Kurosawa sold very little in this match. Whatever like offense that even Randy Savage did, which by the way was near nothing. Which is that just a thing like past 91 is every match that Macho Man's in is like the miracle comeback match.
It does seem to be the kind of the way it's been going. He gets dominated in most of his matches, and then like in the last 30 seconds it turns into his favor and he wins. Right.
So I don't know. Maybe that's the reason why I wasn't a huge fan of this, because I'm just used to, I guess, during his prime where he actually was much more of an entertainer, much more of a worker than what he's been doing. We get I knew that this was going to come. I was waiting for it. And Mongo, he's like Santa Claus, is always bringing presents. He says, I've never seen Savage get dominated like this before, even though I'm pretty sure every Macho match that we've seen that has come out of Mongo's mouth at some point during the match. So I just thought that was really funny that Mongo, at least for the second time, has said exactly those words.
He said exactly those lines, yeah. I mean, he said that multiple times, but even in reference to Randy Savage, not just in general.
Exactly. But I mean, like, I know that the Scott Norton match, that was like a big thing they kept on mentioning, was like, wow, Savage is getting dominated. I've never seen him be dominated like this. And then we got him against Kurosawa, and they're just back to the same song and dance. And the worst part is, like, Bischoff and Heenan both kind of agreed, like, yeah, I've never seen this before. I'm like, oh my God, guys. Like, I don't know. Once again, we've seen these episodes not too long ago, but you would think that they would know what they've said in past episodes. The other thing I really didn't like about this match was that Sergeant Pittman did more offense in his match against Kurosawa than Randy Savage did. And Sergeant Pittman actually, he in a losing effort against Kurosawa. And also, Sergeant Pittman, I didn't know, was undefeated before his loss to Kurosawa.
Yeah, I didn't either. That was strange.
So kind of let that soak in a bit. This man, who probably had about as much like wrestling talent as you and I, was an undefeated wrestler at WCW at one point. Bischoff then throws some shade at the Cleveland Indians because they're taking on the Atlanta Braves at this point in the World Series. Makes some dig at Manny Ramirez.
Saying he wished he had a baseball slide, much like Kurosawa's slide.
Which is weird because he has a horrible slide. Which I'll talk about later. So then, after about 5 minutes into the match, they did give this a decent amount of time. I will give them that. Kurosawa finally goes and works on the arm, does the little like elbow break over the shoulder, and then we go to commercial. We come back from the Man Becomes Monster, which once again another dig that they're doing promos during live wrestling action.
Absolutely hate this. I hate it so much that you go to commercial, you come back, you should be back in the match, not coming back to a promo before you get back to the match.
Hey man, that's the Hogan effect. So we're back, and Kurosawa is still chopping it and kicking it Macho, no longer really working on the arm. Macho has literally done no offense. He's just getting his ass kicked. Goes for that, once again, that weird baseball slide. He misses. He goes for a kick, but accidentally hits the post, which is kind of like the beginning of the end of the match. It's kind of like the opening that Macho needed. He basically doesn't sell it at all. He kind of just runs back into the ring like he didn't kick a post with his leg. Macho like pushes Kurosawa into the top rope, which stuns Kurosawa enough for him to hit the elbow drop for the win. That was literally, I think, the only move he did in the whole match, and I think the match was like 7-8 minutes. It was kind of a long match. So honestly, I give this 1.5 stars, and I might be being an asshole about this, but I saw a 2-star match where if I feel like both of them are able to have the match I think they're capable of doing, and they did it, that's a 2-star match. I think that Macho phoned this in, and I don't care if he's pretending to be injured. Like, this was not an interesting match. I really wasn't that invested in watching Kurosawa just karate chop him in the back of the neck. He just got beaten up the whole entire time until he hit the elbow drop. And like I said before, Pittman looked better, and that's saying a lot. In his losing effort against Kurosawa, so I was kind of disappointed in this match.
Yeah, this is probably our biggest discrepancy, I think, in our ratings between both shows. I had it at 2.5 stars, so, I mean, not much better. For me, I thought it was nice that they gave it some time. I feel like a lot of Nitro's matches have felt very rushed lately. This one, at least, there was some time to it. Thanks to Mongo, I learned what keel hauling is. Because he says something about they're giving him a good keel hauling, which is to, I had to look it up. It is to punish someone by dragging them through the water under the keel of a ship.
So really, Mongo didn't show you what it meant. You still had to look it up.
Well, he brought it up, and actually, I think when he says it, even Heenan's like, oh, what? So Mongo really dropping some knowledge on everybody. I will say I did not like the ending. Kurosawa takes that hit, falls to the ground, rolls over, turns around, puts himself in a perfect, like, where he got hit and landed and where he like rolled and set himself up for the elbow drop was so bad. So the ending was a little weak for me, but I gave it 2.5. I've seen a lot worse on Nitro. I've seen a lot better, but maybe I'm being friendlier, but that's how I felt.
I think I also was mean about it because it did give a lot. They did give them a chance to have a match, and I think they just didn't use the 8 to 9 minutes to the advantage I think they could have. And that's another reason why, like, if a 2-star match is you did what you were supposed to do out there, then I can't give it 2 stars because I think that both of them together could have made a better match than what it was.
Fair enough. After this match, though, we do get to go to the commentator's booth, at which point we find Mongo and Pepe are both there, rocking some cowboy denim outfit. I'm starting to feel less awkward or like I cringe less at seeing what Pepe's wearing, and I feel more out of place watching what Mongo's wearing that week. Like it makes me feel weird. Mongo just doesn't.
Do you think he's putting himself in a corner because he almost feels like he has to dress up like the dog?
It's weird.
It's weird. It's weird that it's almost like the other way around. It's not like whatever he's wearing, he'll just give something similar to Pepe. Instead, it's just like whatever they want to dress up Pepe in, he's got to find an
That's
outfit
what he's rocking
for the real star of the show, which is Pepe.
So, yeah, that's what he's rocking. And their big thing is, can Sting trust Lex Luger? They're still pushing, is Lex good, is he not? And Sting and Luger, of course, are tagging up. We discussed that last week. So they're going to be wrestling later tonight. Heenan makes a comment that apparently on his airplane, the pilot left the cockpit, came and asked Heenan, do you think Sting could trust Luger? And Heenan's response was, get back there and fly this plane.
That was like a classic like stand-up comedian line.
It really was. Just
like, who's flying the plane? Get back over there.
All of a sudden, they're interrupted. The lights go out. And Taskmaster's dad shows up. He's known as the Master. I didn't hear them say that. Did they mention his name on the broadcast?
I don't know.
I had to look it up.
I am aware of who the Master is. I believe that's King Iakea. I don't know if you remember the Prince Iakea.
Yeah.
That is actually King Iakea.
Yeah, I had to do some Wikipedia action on that one. But he starts talking the spotlight. He yells a lot, and basically starts talking about the YETTTAYY. So I believe you and I are both familiar with what's soon going to be the debut of the Yeti, Kyle. And that's basically he's talking about, the Yeti's coming. And then this is followed up with Mean Gene, who's at the entrance ramp talking to the Giant and the Taskmaster. The Taskmaster basically makes coherent sense out of what the Master said because you couldn't understand a damn word he said. Which
is crazy considering he was yelling the whole time and you still couldn't hear it.
Yeah, I actually put on closed captioning to try to make do with what he was saying. But basically they're saying the Yeti is this insurance policy for Sunday Halloween Havoc. And Taskmaster says thanks to his dad. They're basically got this block of ice here. And all of a sudden you see the structure that is a block of ice. They got it from some Sherpas over in the Far East. And they make a comment that Hogan is now this rare white Bengal tiger. And they already cut off his whiskers and they're ready to basically hunt him down. And the Giant, all he talks about how he's the immortal Giant now. So I think
2 weeks now.
The Giant is basically stealing all of the promos of Hogan and turning it for his own.
Next thing you know, he's going to talk about how big his arms are.
Right.
This is just going to
get
worse.
Pythons. Kyle, obviously we know what's happening with the Yeti here. We know what the outcome is with the Yeti, but what did you think? Do you think that this is the first mention of the Yeti, and we're 6 days from Halloween Havoc? To me, for what's supposed to be a big storyline, something they've known for a little while, like at least in the back, the writing, did it seem like it was a little late to be bringing that up?
I would have appreciated if maybe they talked about a little bit of it, even just 1 week earlier. I would have been okay with it.
Yeah.
But the fact that now we're talking, it's such a weird thing to be like, hey, here's this Hollywood prop that's lit up in blue lights and like covered in plastic, and we're going to try and sell this as an ice cube that has some person in it or a creature of some sort, mythical creature. And this is one of those things where we're going through the time in wrestling where I think this is kind of becoming taboo and is going away, but yet they're like really invested in this particular
And we're not just there yet, unfortunately. I think we're still in that mythical, anything can kind of happen era of wrestling. The reality hasn't hit us just yet. But they follow up this segment, of course, with a machine versus machine promo. And Kyle, I started thinking, they've been pushing this sumo truck, monster truck match on the rooftop between Hogan and the Giant. What is the point of it? They're going to have this match after following it. Like, what is the point of having the sumo match? Like, is there a stipulation if one wins that the other has to, like, have his arm tied behind it?
At all. No,
but that's what I mean. Like, so what's the point?
it's there to keep other actual workers off the card. Apparently,
I mean it's so silly. They're pushing it like it's the greatest thing ever, and it doesn't seem to have
I give them
any
credit.
point.
I give them credit that they're trying to give something that's a little bit more, I guess. I wouldn't say Showtime-y, or you know what I mean, like something that's a little bit different, and it's more of like, hey, let's entertain the crowd.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but for me, it's more like from a kayfabe standpoint. Like there should be some advantage if I beat you in the sumo truck match, then I get, you have to be blindfolded for the first 5 minutes.
And
so
I
you
think,
have to tie
the whole point of it, sure. And I think the reason why this kind of match started was Giant came in with a big old truck and ruined and destroyed Hogan's bike. So it just became one of those like whose dick is bigger before the match, almost like a psychological advantage before the actual match.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was silly, and they haven't ever talked about it. I just thought about it when I watched that particular promo. After that, of course, we got our Slim Jim commercial, and then we get Mean Gene back at the entrance ramp, this time with Hogan and Jimmy Hart. Hogan is still in all black here, and I laughed. Something about Hogan always saying the word dude cracks me up, and he was talking to Mean Gene, he's like, I fear no evil, dude. And it just, I don't know what it is, it just takes me out of the moment every time he says the word dude, because it just seems so like, he throws it at the end of almost every sentence.
The problem is he's trying to sound menacing and then saying like sweet cheeks at the end of it. Like it's just like it completely throws you off that like you got a guy who's kind of having like a heel moment, or at least like talking once again, he talks shit about the faces towards it at the end of the conversation. But when you say like dude at the end of it, all I can think of is like Michelle Tanner from the Full House,
right?
And you just can't put yourself back into, oh yeah, that's right, this is like attitude, kind of asshole Hogan, but yeah, he's like saying dude at the end of his thing still.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But he does kind of turn it back on. He says, he's talking about how he's going to drag the Giant around on the back of his Harley until he disintegrates. So that's pretty intense, I think.
Well, from a guy who's gotten his neck broken twice by him, I'm going to let that slide.
Fair enough. Funny enough, though, the Big Show will later on in his life be dragged around on a coffin driven by
Oh my God, you're
hearse.
right. I totally forgot about that in Big Boss Man. I can't wait to talk about. Are we around when that? Are we going to be around when we talk about that? That was
we
before
will, but that's
Invasion.
That's some years in the future.
Yeah.
But that just made me think of that when I pictured him dragging him around. After that, though, he does call out to you what you just alluded to, Kyle. He calls out Sting, Luger, and the Macho Man, and basically says something about they're all dogs fighting to see who can fight the big dog, which I thought it was strange that they'd bring up Roman Reigns in the middle of this segment, but, here we are.
Yeah, a little foreshadowing. I didn't know Hogan knew.
And then he does steal a little quote out of Razor Ramon's book by calling himself the Bad Guy Hulk. So we got a lot of copyright infringement going on at this point, but... that's your segment. And then they followed up with a Saturday night promo. The American Males will be defending their tag titles against Harlem Heat. The Shark is going to be wrestling Lex Luger. And Hogan's going to be there to cut one more last promo before the big pay-per-view. After that, we have our match, which is originally scheduled to be Alex Wright and Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko, but Mr. JL comes out with Eddie Guerrero, and you soon see Alex Wright is behind him, hobbling around on crutches. So I don't know if this is a legitimate injury or not, but he isn't wrestling. But he comes out and hangs out with them for the match, and they do talk about there's a cruiserweight tournament on the horizon, so it looks like this championship will be coming sooner or later, Kyle, as we expected by the end of the year. But who knows when the title match will happen. As for this match, it was actually a pretty good, typical cruiserweight match with that we've been seeing here on Nitro, just with the tag format. One moment one spot I really enjoyed was, and I forget who was charging through, but somebody came charging off the ropes, and it was like a double leapfrog, and everything was really well timed. And that's one thing I always can respect about these cruiserweights is, the timing is impeccable a lot of the times. And I really, really appreciated the way that started. And as I was kind of getting into this match, which I can't say the same for the crowd or the announcers' commentary booth, because they didn't seem to know what to call or how to call it. We cut to backstage. So, okay, we're going to probably see another Hogan segment. Him and the Giant are getting into. Oh, no, I take that back. It's the Shark and Scott Norton going at it in the locker room because
someone's busting out the member berries.
Yeah.
Damn.
So all of a sudden, they cut back there and they show them brawling, and I'm like, well, why are they brawling? And they're like, you remember back on September 11th, the Shark cost Scott Norton his debut match against Macho Man. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that was, what, 6 weeks ago?
6 weeks ago? Yeah.
So I just thought when they said September 11th, I said, man, talk about Scott Norton never forgetting, right? September 11th, never forget. Just hold it.
He originated it.
He originated the never forget. So they started brawling out. I assume they're trying to fill the Halloween Havoc card. But I don't know for sure. Maybe it'll be a Saturday night blow off.
I would be not surprised if they don't have a match. That this was just something to, I don't know, like pull yourself away from a good match.
Something to take away from the match. Yeah, exactly. So after that, they do come back to the match then. And I have to point out, at one point, Mr. JL misses a drop kick, doesn't land it, and typically you'd see the opponent sell it still, and them just try to and be like blatantly obvious he missed. Chris Benoit does not sell it. And it was really smooth how he basically just kind of looked it off and kept going right back into the match like it was meant to happen that way, like he missed it, like a shoot fight would. So really appreciate the little intricacies of just Chris Benoit and what a talented wrestler he is. Eventually, Eddie gets the hot tag, and he does a great move where he basically head scissor takedown the one guy, and the other guy he does like a arm twist drag takedown or something, all in one fluid motion.
It's like a wrist lock takedown, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought it was a really cool spot there. And funny enough, I was watching, I was on Squared Circle yesterday or something, and they showed a highlight of Eddie Guerrero from his WWF days. And he does that same spot in a tag match, and it was just kind of cool that it just happened to happen that way. Eventually, though, in this match, Dean Malenko's in the ring. He's thrown off the ropes, and Alex Wright trips him up with the crutches, which, of course, leads to a cradle for the 3 count. So you can see that they're starting to develop heels and faces in the cruiserweight division. So, the match was pretty good. They had the distractions backstage. The ending, of course, was interfered with. I gave it 2 3/4 stars. I thought it was pretty good. Could have been better. Could have been a lot worse, but not a bad match. Anything you want to add to that, Kyle? And would you rate it?
Well, I think because it's a tag match and these guys, maybe they know each other, maybe they don't. You do have to create some chemistry as a tag partner to maybe hit something that's a little bit better. I think these guys would be much better in singles matches. I also gave it 2 3/4 stars. My notes were that it was okay, a couple nice spots. But once again, I think the combination of the crowd not being in it, like you mentioned, the commentators not knowing what to do or talk about, they were kind of talking about Hogan again, and it was just like, what the hell, man? And then also the thing that was the weirdest part was Alex Wright being on kind of the face side of the tag team, doing kind of a heelish move to create the finish that happened for the face team. So it made the match a little bit of a letdown when you take into consideration that the talent that's in the ring. It was kind of slow paced after the really cool fast start we had.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And then, of course, after the match, Brian Pillman attacks Eddie Guerrero because why the fuck not?
Yeah, we all call it. I think it's because he's probably also going to be in the cruiserweight.
I suppose, but he's currently involved in a heavy storyline with Arn Anderson and Flair and everything. It just seems silly to throw him in there at this point, but whatever. Then, of course, we follow that up with another Halloween Havoc promo, and then that leads us into our main event, Kyle. Harlem Heat, who had, of course, Sherry with them, against Sting and Lex Luger. Before the match, they do cut to the crowd, and there's some poorly painted WCW TNT faces on some fans, so you already see some diehards showing up to these episodes of Nitro. And then they really show you that block of ice that the Yeti's in, And Kyle, you and I both got PTSD from the gobbledygooker, just the way it looks, and you could tell something's going to come out of it. And it's almost like they didn't learn a lesson from the WWF with this, like how bad the gobbledygooker happened. Are they going to repeat it here? I guess they don't think so. And then they do make a crack. Mongo makes a crack on the In Your House pay-per-view for the WWF. He calls it the In Your Out House, which I know you cracked up to. So
the only time that I actually gave Mongo a tip of the cap.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not it's cheesy, but it was 90s cheesy.
Not bad, yeah. But then of course he follows it up by saying that they're going to shred him like a piece of paper. So, he brings us right back into reality. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Absolutely, Kyle. How did you enjoy or not enjoy this tag match? What did you think about it?
It was totally, once again, main event and totally inconsequential. So Harlem Heat comes out with Sherry, and I mentioned this before. They have a photo of them coming up next, and they show Sting and Lex and whatever, and then they have the Harlem Heat and some girl with them that does not look like Sherry at all. She looks like an African-American woman, and I had to look it up and try to find who this was. And they did have other managers beforehand, but none of them looked like this woman. And I'm like, unless Sherry, they took a picture of her and the lighting just made her a lot darker.
Right, real bad picture or something, yeah.
Yeah, but I let it go. But anyways, Harlem Heat comes out with Sherry, who looks like Sherry. I'm like, yes, that's the Sherry I know. Sting and Luger, they come out together. They don't have their own, I think they came out to Sting's music. And, I just found it really funny that Sting is actually rocking the red and yellow, and also, I guess, sporting kind of a mustache. And
in honor of Hogan, Hogan made a comment earlier. I think it was Hogan that made a comment earlier, like, "Yeah, I saw Sting and he's rocking the red and yellow tonight." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, and just trying to keep Hulkamania alive. So Sting, I think, starts off in the match with Stevie Ray. And one thing I thought, once again, very interesting, he reverses a hip toss into another hip toss that throws Stevie Ray over the top rope. And the booth just goes nuts about whether or not that was intentional or whatever. They don't mention should he be DQ'd, but it made it seem like, oh no, that wasn't on purpose. Oh,
right.
that might have had something to do with the match.
At some point soon, this rule has to be completely abolished, but I don't think we're quite there yet. But we're at the point where they only will call it when it's actually been booked that way. True.
So here we go with it. They let it slide this time, because if that were to have happened, then people would have been throwing batteries in the ring. So anyways, match continues. Luger gets tagged in. Nothing really happens before we go to break. We come back, and Stevie Ray's beat the shit out of Luger, so Luger really didn't have much of an offense that we got to see. And that was also with Stevie Ray and Luger, the match is going to slow down very significantly. Match kind of gets boring. In fact, it gets so boring that we actually pan out to show the ice block again, because that is now more interesting than watching Luger and Stevie Ray go at it. We kind of fast forward. Booker T's in the ring, beating up on Luger. He goes for the Harlem Hangover, still one of my favorite moves in wrestling, and but he misses. Sting gets the hot tag. Sting does his normal Sting thing where he cleans house, like the Democrats and the Republic, whatever the fuck Mongo said last week.
Right.
He actually tries to put Booker T in the Scorpion Deathlock, and I popped because I'm like, oh yes, he does.
He does actually use it. Yeah, I thought the same thing, because what we talked about, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the first time we saw him use it, but it does not last long.
No, it does not. And Stevie breaks it up. Luger comes in and attacks him. So now we're at the point of the match. We know it's about to end soon, because now it's Bedlam. It's no longer about tagging or anything. It's just everybody kind of doing their own thing. So Sting is still the legal man, but Harlem Heat is kind of double teaming and working on Luger, which is just textbook poor move by a seasoned tag team like the Harlem Heat. They should know who the legal man is. Sting is perched up to the top rope, hits Booker T with a flying clothesline. Apparently Sting's finishing move is anything off the top rope at this point, and pins him 1, 2, 3 with Stevie Ray literally just a couple feet away, and didn't even notice that there was a 3 count.
Made him look really dumb. Yeah, I agree.
It did. So I gave this a 2-star, and that was a max. It was a dull main event. I didn't like the fact that Sting was tagging with Lex. I feel like this would have been nice to have Sting with Flair again. Now Flair also obviously might not have been available, but Lex has a singles match coming up. Why doesn't Lex have his own singles match to kind of get himself in? We already had Macho get one, so why not Lex? I just felt that like for this, yeah, the talent is there, it's fine, but
just nonsensical booking.
Right. I want matches that I feel like is going to push a derivative forward, and this had nothing to do with any of that.
I agree. I gave it 2.25 stars, so pretty close to what you had with it. I just want to add that basically Heenan thought Sherry was attractive and got ripped apart by Mongo and Bischoff. They basically thought he was a despicable human being for thinking that she's attractive. I think she's an attractive woman.
I'd hook up with Sherry in complete fear.
Absolutely. And then she has a Polaroid of Colonel Parker that she kisses at one point, and Heenan makes a comment about, I wonder how many other Polaroids those two have together, which, it was dirty and made me chuckle to myself. But again, like you said, the match wasn't great. It was what it was. Could have been a lot better. 2.25 star once again. The match then, of course, the Giant shows up because why not? He choke slams Sting and Luger. Macho Man comes in. You thought he's about to get choke slammed, but he more or less distracts the Giant. And then Hogan comes in for the save and takes off the neck brace. So the big reveal that Hogan's neck is fully healed now, just in time for Halloween Havoc. And him and the Giant kind of get after it, and you can tell the Giant is green, Kyle. I mean, this is his debut match is at Halloween Havoc, and you can tell he just does not have a lot of ring experience at this point. Of course, all hell breaks loose. The Dungeon of Doom and Team Hulkamania all come out there. Everybody's battling, but not on Doug Dillinger's watch. He comes in with a billy club, clears things up. Heenan yells, hit him, in reference to Hogan, which cracked me up.
I actually thought Hogan was going to hit Dillinger. I thought he was going to punch him.
And then all of a sudden they start talking about how the floor is shaking, and they cut over to the ice sculpture, which turned red in the shape of a penis. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but it was definitely glowing. And pyros explode, the ice is melted, and there's the Yeti, and fade to black instantly. You barely saw.
We saw Yeti for an eighth of a second.
Yeah. But you could tell it's some sort of mummy creature, and if you haven't seen the Yeti yet, go tune in to the Halloween Havoc 95, which will be this Sunday, because it is worth its price in gold to witness that moment.
By the way, it's not the Yeti, it's the Yettay.
Yettay, yeah. Kyle, what were your final thoughts on this episode of Nitro, the Go Home show?
I could be just, I don't know, cynical. I don't know what it is. I thought this actually overall was the worst Nitro in regards to the total show. I know that we had said that I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, both Nitro and Raw were both pretty bad. I actually think that this was worse in the regard of, I think that once again, the only thing that they're pushing is the Hogan Giant thing. Everything else just seemed like who gives a shit. I thought the Macho Man match wasn't good. The tag match wasn't bad, but it should have been better. The ending was stupid even to that match. Hogan and Giant being shoved down our throats in a completely stupid, inconsequential, slow-paced main event, followed by the emergence of a new wrestler that was not even built up or talked about until that night. And also, we saw it for a half a second. We ran out of time. And I'm sure whatever was afterwards on TNT, Saved by the Bell, I don't know what was on after this. I actually was very disappointed by the execution of this show.
I actually think it might have been Thunder in Paradise that follows this. But I agree. Nitro was not good. I didn't hate it as much as you did. I think we've seen worse Nitros. But for a go-home show, it was Hogan and Giant again, which I guess that's what this pay-per-view is all about.
And maybe that's why I didn't like this, because it was a go-home show, and there really wasn't anything for any kind of peril or excitement about any match at all except for
those.
Hogan
That's
Giant.
all they care about, apparently. To me, though, this whole Yeti thing is really corny. I know it's 95, and that's what wrestling was, but it's like, the NWO can't come soon enough, Kyle. I am ready for more reality-based, not this mythical. We're trying to believe that this ice melted and the Sherpas found this Yeti monster to come.
Exactly. Like, how can you sell this to people? And also, I think the real thing here is I don't even know how to really explain it other than I don't know. I had something and then I lost it because I'm getting so angry about we're on the outside looking in. That's what I was going to say. We know how bad ultimately the YETTTAY premiere is. So maybe if we didn't know that, maybe there was something like, who is this guy? A little more hype.
Yeah.
But we're already going in this knowing this is going to be a colossal failure.
Yeah, it sure is. But let's talk about what wasn't a colossal failure. And that was part of Raw this week, at least, if not the whole show. It opens up. Of course, they're talking about what's going to happen. You got a little discussion on Diesel and Hart, which, of course, is going to be a world title match at Survivor Series. They're going to put the women's title on the line, and there's that 20-man battle royal. And we're here in Canada, in Brandon, Manitoba, Canada, which Kyle, you informed me was the second largest city in the province. So
if I've never heard of the city in my life, you know, sure as shit, I'm going to find a fun fact about that city for this podcast. You're welcome.
There you have it. Of course, we go to our Cops opening, which Kyle, you must pay attention way more to that opening than I do, because you said they added Yokozuna, Dean Douglas, Jerry the King Lawler, and Vince McMahon to it. I couldn't tell you who is in it.
Or at the very least, if they were in it, it wasn't in the. It's not the same video. It's almost like they have different
versions of it or something,
and then they just like drag and drop where they put people.
Right. The show does open up, and we're getting right into this 20-man over-the-top battle royal for the number one contendership for the Intercontinental Title. And most of the superstars are already in the ring. All of a sudden, Marty Jannetty getting his own entrance. I found that a little surprising myself, that he was going to get his own entrance. Right after him, of course, Psycho Sid comes out, which I can understand that one. And then Isaac Yankem, which it must have been an off day at the dentist's office because he's like wearing track pants or something instead of his normal dental scrubs.
I feel like Yankem only does Jerry. I think he's just the personal dentist of Jerry Lawler. So if Lawler's teeth are perfect, then he's going to come out in a tracksuit.
There you go. And then before the match starts, we got a couple promos discussing the Battle Royal. Marty Jannetty cuts a very rhyme-heavy sort of fun-loving rap 80s promo or something. And Psycho Sid, I don't know what the fuck he said. He was whispering, and it was really hard to hear, and I don't know. I don't know what he was talking about.
I was thinking it was also over the music of his actual theme music was playing while during the from the actual arena. Right. And I just think that they needed to just cut right to the promo and cut everything else off to actually hear it. And I think that was just a bad production job.
I agree. And then they do confirm that the winner will face Razor Ramon next week. You might say, Razor Ramon? Well, why isn't it Dean Douglas or Shawn Michaels? Well, at In Your House, Shawn Michaels could not perform because, of course, that Syracuse nightclub attack. And instead of vacating the title, which would have made the most sense, he actually had to forfeit it over to Dean Douglas. So Dean Douglas was your Intercontinental Champion for all of about 10 minutes, had a match with Razor Ramon, and drops it to Razor. So now Razor is your Intercontinental Champion. So Razor will be defending that title against the winner of this 20-man battle royal.
Which is a total shit on Dean, because you would think he'd get a rematch clause, or he would at least be in this 20-man. And he's not.
And he's not either. Yeah, it's a great point. Dean has been getting pushed, I feel like fairly heavily since we started watching. So it's kind of surprising that he's basically getting buried here, I feel like.
And he's finally on the Raw theme video.
Yeah, it's an interesting quandary anyways. So the match starts, and King Kong Bundy, being one of the biggest guys in the ring, gets eliminated about 5 seconds later, as you never see happen with big men in battle royals. But there you have it. He's gone, and then some time passes before the next eliminations. Eventually, though, Aldo Montoya is gone, Bob Holly's gone, Duke the Dumpster's gone, and Hakushi get eliminated. But the next elimination that was worth mentioning to me was Fatu got punched in the chest, maybe in an uppercut fashion, and just falls backwards, flips up, and falls out of the ring. It was one hell of a punch that was landed on Fatu.
Like he was hit by Thor. Who actually did the hit? Was it a bigger person, or was it
you know what?
I'm trying to think of it.
I didn't write down.
At first I thought it was Skip Donna, and I don't remember that.
No, I don't. Could it have been Kamala, maybe? Or not Kamala. Not Kamala. Kama.
It might have been Kama. You know, yeah. I think it might have been Kama. I remember you said Kamala, I think in your
notes I wrote Kamala, but it's Kama, yeah. So it could have been him. Skip Donna then is eliminated, still jobbing to Barry Horowitz. So a couple noteworthy things there. Vince does make a comment at one point about all the different people in this ring that that Jerry Lawler says a comment like Fidel Castro would want to be in this, which Vince absolutely busted up for. So apparently that's a topical thing going on. And as we headed commercial break, we got 13 left in the ring out of the 20. And we come back from commercial break, and we're down to 7. 6 people were eliminated during the commercial break, which I thought was a lot to have eliminated during a break, but, whatever. Horowitz is gone, 1-2-3 Kid's gone, Henry Godwin's gone, Radford, and Kama all got eliminated. And then Isaac Yankem is gone, which I thought was a little surprising given that he had his own entrance. But that's followed up, and then Sid's eliminated. So you had 2 of the people who had their own personal entrances, both eliminated.
And one of the 2 that had their own hype
had
promo.
A promo, yeah, and there's still 5 people remaining. And we go to another commercial break. We come back. Bam Bam had been eliminated during the break. And now you're left with Jean-Pierre Lafitte, Savio Vega, Marty Jannetty, and Owen Hart. And the fans are chanting Marty, 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 but it also sounds incredibly fake. Did you notice that, or was it just me?
It didn't sound authentic. If that's what you're, asking.
It just felt like a very dubbed over fan chant. But I don't know. Maybe they really were behind Marty Jannetty. So with the 4 left, Kyle, you and I both thinking Owen Hart or Marty Jannetty's got to win this thing. At one point, Marty Jannetty's flipped over to the outside where he does that, where you're supposed to do that move where you kind of hold onto the ropes and flip, kind of pull yourself back up and flip back into the ring.
Yeah, it's called, I think for those who, the marks out there, it's called skinning the cat.
Oh, there you go. He kind of botched it though, didn't really do it, but he finally resets himself and ends up taking, Savio Vega out with a head scissors sort of move right there. Gets back into the ring. Jean-Pierre's eliminated quickly after, and you're left with just Owen Hart and Marty Jannetty. And actually, they go pretty long here for just the 2 of them. And at one point, Owen Hart's out on the apron, holding on to the top rope, taking a bunch of punches. He falls to the second rope, takes more punches, falls to the third rope. A lot of suspense. I was actually really thought at one moment he was going to lose this way, and Marty was going to win with the punches to the outside apron. It was almost like a video game when you got an opponent out in a Royal Rumble, and you're just
gotta
working
match
them.
The buttons.
Yeah. But Owen eventually gets back into the ring. Jannetty, however, is tossed out, but he's tossed through the middle rope, so he's not eliminated yet. But British Bulldog, of course, shows up, attacks him for a little bit, throws him back into the ring. And while Marty fights it off for another minute or so, he is ultimately eliminated, and Owen Hart is your winner. I got to say, Kyle, I thought this is one of the better battle royals I have seen on television. It lasted 20 minutes for a show, which I thought was great. There was some suspense at the end. I think it would have been a 3-star battle royal if it had not been for the Bulldog interference toward the end. It kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I thought they could have ended a little bit better. But yeah, that's what I said, 2 3/4 stars. What did you think?
I gave it 2 stars because I also agreed. Actually, I don't agree. I think that actually is the proper way for Owen to win. Owen's a heel. Owen should not win a battle royal outright, or at least have some underhanded tactic, which happened to be Bulldog. So I'm okay with that finish. What I'm not a fan of is when you got a bunch of big guys in that ring, at least do a couple spots to take advantage of that, because that's usually where big guys can show off, how difficult it is to lift somebody out. Have them start taking out a lot of people. When you go to a commercial break and you see okay, we had 13 people, now we're down to 6. I would have loved to see someone like King Kong Bundy or Yankem or Sid, just you see 3 people trying to take him out, and then he just throws them all over with his pinky. Just see oh my god, who's gonna be able to get this guy out? No, and this match didn't really give us any type of guy, big guy that's oh, he's gonna be a difficult guy to get rid of, because everybody kind of got removed unceremoniously as far as the big guys are concerned.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's not bad. After the match, we get a WrestleMania the Arcade game promo, And then we go immediately to Jerry Lawler interviewing Jim Cornette and Owen Hart. And Owen basically says he fought the best of the best, but he's the cream of the crop. And then he ends by saying he's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. So apparently it's not just the Giant that's on that's copyright infringing on people. Owen Hart is now stealing from his brother's gimmick.
But at least it's his brother's gimmick. I think I at least say, like, I'll give it a pass because he's kind of like the evil Bret Hart.
Fair enough. And then we get Karate Fighters presents Survivor Series. Of course, you got Diesel versus Bret Hart for the WWF Championship. And they recap a little bit about what happened at In Your House. Both Diesel and Bulldog had fallen outside and attacked Bret. A little push or a punch. Bret, of course, does not take kindly to that and attacks Bulldog, ending in a disqualification for Diesel. Bulldog does win the match the night before, but does not, gain the championship because of it. So they show them get going at it a little bit and kind of pushing this Diesel and Bret Hart match for Survivor Series. And then we get the Doc Hendricks Slam Jam, where he starts to talk about the classic Survivor Series match you're used to. We got the 4-on-4, and of course this one is going to be a little different. You've got Team HBK, led by Shawn Michaels. He'll have Psycho Sid, British Bulldog, and Ahmed Johnson, because why the fuck not, going against the Dean Douglas team of Yokozuna, Razor Ramon, Owen Hart, and Dean Douglas. Kyle, what the fuck are they doing here?
Well, I think that makes me the most upset about this is that the Survivor Series is supposed to be kind of like a way to get a lot of decent heel and face storylines either done with or at least moving forward, where you've got you got four faces that are taking on the four counterparts of who they're taking on.
Of their feuds, right, absolutely.
Yeah, so you're there to either help build the feud or help bury it or do something. This is they did admit this is kind of what's called the wild card Survivor Series. But
the wild card Survivor Series.
Dude, Doc Hendricks sounded like he was just straight up coked out. He was running around and just jogging in place and dancing. But yeah, it's almost too much. I think they tried too hard for this. Basically, Razor Ramon is teamed up with three guys that would love to kick his ass, and then you've got Shawn Michaels, who two of the other three would love to kick his ass. And then you got Ahmed Johnson, who the fuck knows what he's all about. But obviously we do find out that Ahmed Johnson has got HBK's back saying, "Don't sweat it, G." And yeah, I think that's the only thing that we could actually hear that was coherent out of his mouth. But basically just calling out the heels, which is, come on, man. At the very least, say you got HBK's back, but now you're over there threatening the other half of your team. They're not going to take that they're going to take that lightly.
That's true. Psycho Sid is not stable. That's for sure. And then Doc Hendricks apparently notices what's going on, even though he's in the back stage area somewhere. He knows what's going on in the arena. So
even though it's a video pre-produced.
Yeah, exactly. And they show Bob Backlund campaigning. Obviously, this is the presidential run that Backlund was kind of running through. They show that for half a second. Cut back to Doc Hendricks. Of course, they cut to the Ahmed Johnson promo that we already discussed. And then, Kyle, we get to the Avatar versus Brian Walsh match. And Avatar, of course, he's just a luchador who carries his mask to the ring. Wait a minute. That was Al Snow. What?
I didn't even notice that at first. I literally didn't.
I didn't either.
I watched the match, and then I was just trying to look up information about Avatar. I'm like, I never heard of Avatar. Who the hell is that? And then they showed another picture of him. I'm like, wait, is that Al Snow? And then I looked up Al Snow's Wikipedia page. He was the Avatar. I'm like, I cannot believe it.
And that's his running gag, is he's a luchador who comes in, puts his mask on once he gets in the ring, which I thought was strange. But that's sort of his gimmick. Vince actually makes a joke about how Jerry Lawler should put on a mask, or he's wearing a mask or something. So even Vince is getting in on it. Not much to say. It's your typical squash match. Brian Walsh does a kip up though, so look at him.
He had a couple. You know what? He had a lot more offense than the last match he was in.
And he still doesn't have a Wikipedia page, Kyle.
I think it was Sean Pierre Lafitte, his last match he was with, where he basically just got destroyed while Bret Hart was on the phone.
Could be. Yeah.
I think it might have been him, but yeah, he had a couple of moves. He didn't just get his ass kicked, but for the most part, he got his ass kicked.
And then Avatar finishes him off eventually by standing on him and then kind of jumping into a splash. I thought it was a unique finisher. I kind of liked it myself.
I kind of thought it was weird, though, that he did like a cool standing moonsault, which I thought looked cooler, and then he decided to stand on his chest and just do like a regular splash. I'm like, you had me at standing moonsault.
Right.
In 1995, a standing moonsault was like finding a unicorn making love to Bigfoot on WWF's like TV time. So he probably could have just finished that with the moonsault, and I would have been fine with it.
That said, I gave it 1 3/4 stars. It was what it was. What do you think?
Yep, I had the same exact rating, 1 3/4. I put down here match was fine. I'm pretty sure the gimmick doesn't go anywhere for Al Snow, obviously. I don't even think that Avatar has another match. I could be wrong, but I think this is the only time I ever remember seeing Avatar.
We'll see. I didn't even know he was a thing till watching this episode.
Hey, you thought PG-13 was only going to get one match.
That's true. After this, they show Alundra Blaze, who's stretching in the back, getting ready for her upcoming match. And then they discuss a little bit more about Shawn Michaels and how he's got a concussion. They're not sure what his future holds at the WWF. And then they make an announcement. Goldust is going to make his Raw debut next week against Savio Vega. Of course, Goldust coming off the in-your-house victory over Marty Jannetty. And then we've got our Women's Championship main event match. Big Bertha Faye defending her title against Alundra Blaze. I just got to say, Harvey Wippleman's not a cuck, Kyle. Faye was kissing the ref, and he put his foot down on that and stopped that shit right then and there. So Harvey Wippleman knows what he likes, and you don't touch his women.
I also found it strange that she was the one that kissed him, and yet he yells at the ref.
Oh yeah.
Like, why don't you look at your lying, cheating hooker of a girlfriend?
I gotta say though, this was a pretty good match. I was a little surprised. I thought women's wrestling in the mid '90s was gonna be shit. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought Big Bertha moved around well for a big woman. I think she showed her power a lot in it, and she actually looked kind of impressive. And dominated most of the match. Power bombs the whole ordeal. Eventually, of course, you're going to have the comeback from Alundra Blaze, and she will eventually take a German suplex after Faye is thrown into Harvey Wippleman on the apron. Alundra Blaze is going to get the German suplex for the 3 count. Overall, Kyle, I give it 2 3/4 stars. I thought it was a solid, surprising match for me. I don't know if there's anything that, give me your rating and anything you want to add to that breakdown or thoughts on the match as a whole.
So I thought that it was actually a lot better than I thought. I thought going into it, I'm like, oh God, I don't know what kind of match Bertha Faye is capable of doing. I did a little bit of research on Bertha Faye, and she actually was a very seasoned wrestler. Like so obviously she knows what she's doing in the ring, and it definitely showed. She definitely played the big woman, the big kind of like immovable,
She plays it like how like Nia Jax is playing her character these days.
Exactly, and she had a couple good spots, and I think the thing that was the best about it was she actually was good at taking bumps.
Yeah.
I was crazy impressed with that German suplex finish.
I was too. I was shocked.
She actually went over, and just took the whole German. I thought that German suplex was going to be like her just kind of being like almost as bad,
almost
as
like a cradle roll up or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like no real impact, but no, she got accordioned by the German. It was done very well. It was a great finish. Harvey tries to get involved with the match and is actually holding on to Alundra Blaze, which you would think that would be a DQ right then and there. But obviously the storylines the WWF has more to do with the story than that. And Bertha Faye tries to hit her while she's being held back, accidentally, she gets out of the way and hits Harvey. That's when the German hit happens. I gave this 3 stars. And I know that seems like a lot, and it seems like I'm everywhere with my ratings, but the reason why I give it such a high rating is because I went into this match thinking this is a 1 3/4 star match at best. And I was so completely surprised by it that I had to give it a little extra for the effort from both of them. I'm not saying that either one of them are the quintessential of female professional wrestling, but I this definitely deserved the main event.
Yeah, I agree. Very impressive match. After the match, of course, Faye is chasing down Harvey Whippleman, blaming him for the loss, so we'll see what happens there. Then we get followed up. We got a promotion for next week's Raw. Of course, Savio Vega again is wrestling Goldust, and Razor Ramon defending that Intercontinental title against Owen Hart. And then we get a little segment where Jim Ross is talking to Shawn Michaels, who looks like he's depressed and homeless and just a bum.
He looks like he just stole some clothes from Goodwill.
Yeah, he does. He looks like shit here. He looks really bad. They talk about, him having to forfeit his title, and he says Dean Douglas is overrated, which seemed a bit of a shoot right there.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was too.
Kind of interesting. It just felt that way to me. And then they do discuss the Survivor Series match about him being tagged up with, Jabroni Johnson and the heels. And he basically says you might as well tie him up with his friends from Syracuse, which I kind of thought was funny that he, at least he's acknowledging what happened. And then he says, I should be back within a week wrestling. We'll see if that's the case or not, but that's what he said. And that's our show, Kyle. What were your final thoughts on Raw?
I mean, maybe you're a little bit more in love with the Battle Royal. I think there were some missed opportunities. I thought I thought the Raw overall was fine. I really had no problems with it. The Avatar Brian Walsh thing was a little bit weird. But I guess, if you're trying to debut somebody, I don't think that was the way to do it. I think, once again, what they did with someone like Goldust, where they had vignettes and they're trying to really let someone, hey, this guy's coming soon. They did the same thing with Triple H. They clearly are not invested in whatever Al Snow is trying to sell them right now. And so he just kind of gets put in a match, which I don't think any music at all. He just kind of comes down the ring holding a mask, looking like Ultimo Dragon, fucked a bullfighter. And it was fine. But like I said, I think surprisingly, the female the women's title match saved the day, and it definitely made for some good quality entertainment. And I also thought the promos were decent this time around too. Even Ahmed Johnson's to an extent. I give him credit for trying, and we know how bad he is on the mic. So I thought overall it was a pretty good Raw.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely better than Nitro, though we both agree Nitro was pretty poor this week. I really enjoyed the Battle Royal, like I said, and they gave it a lot of time, and I really enjoyed the women's championship match, which I thought was going to be garbage. And to be honest, I watched SummerSlam 95 where Faye wins the title, and that match was not good. So they really turned it around well for this Raw. And I thought it was a good follow-up after the In Your House to kind of reset things now that most of the storylines have kind of been settled. And for a show that didn't really feature, Razor Ramon, didn't feature Diesel, didn't feature Bret Hart, didn't feature Shawn Michaels. I mean, he had that little promo at the end. A lot of the big names weren't here or weren't featured, and I still thought they did a good job. And I think, Kyle, we're both going to agree that who won this week? It had to be Raw, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Nitro definitely swung and missed for the go-home show for Halloween Havoc. I wish that they would have at least gave the rest of the cards some attention. And don't get me wrong, what they're doing with Hogan and Giant is pretty awesome. What they're doing, except now with this whole thing with the YETTTAYY, I feel like it's taken 3 steps back. Because it's okay, what the fuck is this? We were all about this whole okay, here's the sumo truck thing.
You got machine versus machine and the man versus the man. And then they add this Yeti in there. It seemed like an unnecessary add to this feud that they've been pushing, this story that they've been pushing.
Yeah, you ever hear the phrase or the saying stop drilling, you hit oil? That's kind of what this is. You're everything here is working. You don't need the insurance policy. You don't need some crappy Hellraiser-looking dude, the master, speaking to us, and it might as well have been in tongues because we have no idea what he said. And then some cheap-ass prop that's supposed to look like an ice cube. It was just you didn't need to. You're trying too hard, and we know, you and I know it's going to blow up in their faces. But obviously, we'll talk more about that next week.
Yes, we will. We will definitely be talking about that next week. All I got to add, Kyle, is the Nielsen ratings, Nitro 2.6. It's up from a 2.2 last week. And Raw, following the pay-per-view, 2.2, down from a 2.6 last week. So definitely trading back forth. The streak does continue. And we'll have to see next week as we do the October 30th, 1995 edition of Nitro. Of course, the follow-up to the YETTTAYY's debut in the Halloween Havoc match and everything there on Nitro. And who's going to win that Intercontinental title match at Raw? Those are some of the things we're going to see and discuss next week here on the Monday Night Tours. So that's the show. Go follow us on iTunes, subscribe on Google Play if you haven't done that yet. Leave us some feedback. And check us out. Go to MondayNightTours.com. You can find all of our episodes there. You can also find our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Give us a follow. We try to tweet some stuff out here and there. Maybe we'll do some live tweeting with this Halloween Havoc match because the YETTTAYY deserves to get some love.
Right, because no one else is going to.
There you have it. For Kyle Hoagland, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you guys next time on the Monday Night Tours.
Sorry about that. Have a good Tuesday, and see ya.